I should introduce myself. So my name is Ji. So I'm being trained to teaching MCDM course. So let me tell you about general information of this course. So for grading, it's the same with other courses. So for midterm, it's 30%, and final is 40%, and homework project quiz is 30%. So we already upload the projects, the requirement project, how you form your group, and how you submit already in the Blackboard. And next, study the general information. Here is just the regulation. I hope you can accept that, and you should like is no makeup quiz, so I have to check attendance. No late homework is just regular. Okay. Let me talk about the textbook. Textbook before midterm, I use the multiple attribute decision making method and application. So if you need that ebook, so I will ask my TA upload in the Blackboard. You can download it. So this course I divide in two parts. The first study MADM, and the second is MODM. So before midterm, we finish this MADM, and after midterm, we continue with MODM. Okay, so let me talk about this course. But before I talk about this course, so let me ask you like the question. So when you want to make the decision, what you do? You want to make the decision. So like I want to ask you like the procedure when you make the decision. For example, when you consider what university you should apply, or what kind of cell phone you should buy. So what you should do and what you consider when you make the decision. So who can let me know? Grading criteria. I consider what option there for me to choose. And another idea, infer interest and friends. Okay, thank you. And another question is for you that so how do you feel when you want to make the decision? So you have many options. So what is the best option we should select? Because we don't know, right? We don't know what is the best. So how do you feel when you make decision? Yeah, personally, for example, when you consider apply to IU or what technology university. So what you consider, and list of benefits of each option before chooses. Okay, after you list all the benefits, and you know that when you list down the benefits, so this could have some benefits, some as like disadvantage, right? Pro and cons. And another university also have some pro and cons. So how we can know that what we should choose? So Nguyễn, Nguyễn Quang Minh.
Yes, Miss. I think we can create a matrix of criteria and the weights that we will allocate for each criteria.
Oh.
I mean, it's like the weighted score, the method we use in the previous courses. So we list out all the alternatives.
What the course you take?
Like organizational behavior, OB, and the return management, and also
That is the process for making decision, right?
The process will be like so can I take an example? Like, okay, so if I want to buy a new smartphone, so I will identify the decision criteria. Like if I care about the screen, the quality of the screen, or I care about the brand, the price, the functions, anything like that. And then I will allocate the weights for that criteria. Like if I care more about the quality of the screen more than the battery or something, and then I will find the alternatives. So like we have from Samsung or iPhone, Xiaomi, and so on. And then like we were evaluating the alternatives based on the criteria and the weighted score that we have already made, and then we're selecting the best alternative based on that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Very clear.
Yes.
So everyone, when you want to make the decision, the first we should list like how many options you have, right? The first step. And for example, when I want to buy the cell phone, so I will think about that. What the brand name I should consider and how many options I consider, right? After I list that. And the next is I consider like what I'm pay on when I select the cell phone, right? For example, like I like is the qualities is like battery. I like appearance of um, the cell phone. I like the color. I list down all. So remember, when I make the decision, so decision is different with you, right? Different with other. Maybe you consider different criteria when you make the decision. That is the quantitative methods when we make the decision. But actually, in the real life, we have like different situation and how we can handle that. And the decision making that is everywhere we must face in our lives. It's not easy when we make the decision, right? Not easy. So we just consider what I should choose to this or to that. So we must compromise the benefits of this disadvantage, so like benefits and costs of each alternative. So that's why we need to take the multi-criteria decision making. So maybe in other costs, you already know like a procedure to make decision, but it's not detailed. For this course, I will teach you the way we make the decision in like multi-criteria decision making. It's not just only about the alternative. It's how many options in the discrete number, but also the continuous. So, for example, I'm working in the company, so I want to maximize the profits. I want to maximize number of labor. I want to like maximize the qualities like this. Also in the real life, we not just only want one thing. Usually we want several things together like this. So how we can make the decision? So how can we achieve all the goal we have, objective you have? So this course will teach you how. When you go for when you go out for get a job, so the company they have like many objectives. It's not just only one objective. So they not just only not only they want this. For example, if they already maximize profit, so can I maximize the qualities is like together. They because they always want to improve and they utilize all the resources they have. So how we can deal with that? So this course will help you to solve that problem. Okay, so let me go this with this. So in Operation Research 1, everyone, you remember Operation Research 1. So we have just single objective, right? Single objective, like just maximize profits or minimize the cost. Okay, let me show you. So, like this. So you maximize the single objective. So you maximize or you minimize Z, right? Here you have a list of subjective. You remember in Operation Research 1? But for this course is not single. Here that is a multiple objective. So you have max or you have mean Z here. I greater than 1. And you also have subjective. That is the difference between in the Operation Research 1 and multiple objective, multiple criteria decision making. You deal with this problem. That is MODM. After midterm, you study. So before midterm, you study with MADM. MADM. So what is the A? M is the multiple. A, that is the attribute. Decision making. O here, that is the objective. So multi-attribute decision making and multi-objective decision making. So that is before midterm we study. So for MADM, before midterm, we will study with what? We will focus on in several techniques, that is the SOAR, AHB, fuzzy, AHB, top 6, Electra, 1, 2. That is what we try to focus on this. And after midterm is MODM. We focus on compromise, programming, Go programming, and de novo. So each methods they have different function, different characteristics. So we must to know inside of each method here, and we can apply that to solve your problem. Sometimes we can combine them to solve the problem. It means we take advantage of this method and advantage of another method to solve. Okay, so that is all the content we should finish for this course. So today's lesson, that is the introduction to multi-criteria decision making. So I will teach you some terminologies of multi-criteria decision making and the process when we make the decision. Okay, and I will tell you like some kind of notation you should know. Okay, so let me go inside of the introduction to MCDM. Yeah, content of the class today class. So first of all, I will tell you that this MOD. I already tell you that some technique of MADM and MODM, but you may ask me that. So what is the difference between MODM and MADM? So when we use the MADM and when we use the MODM, right? So here that is the techniques, the methods. Also that is the methods. So they define MODM, that is the find out the set of non-dominated solution from the infinite solution according to multi-conflict objective. So what does it mean? So look at the board. You remember in Operation Research 1, we find maximize profits, you try to minimize profits, but you pay on what? You pay on the feasible region, right? You try to find optimal solution in feasible region here. So in MODM, they have the same. That the main difference that is here they have multiple objectives. And for Operation Research 1, that is a single objective. But the feasible region is the same because we have the same the constraints. So in here, for example, we try to find maximize profits, and you maximize number of labor, for example, like this, number of labor. And we have the constraints, the subject to, constraint here. So from the constraint, I can draw the feasible region. So right now, I try to find which point in here, which point in this area satisfy maximize profits or maximize number of labor. So you can see that in here, feasible region, that is a set of non-dominated solution from the infinite solution. You can see here, infinite. It's not finite, infinite solution, right? And one more thing you should consider, that is the objective here. You have multiple objectives, but objective must be conflict. Multiple conflicting objective. Okay, so you may ask me, so how can we know that the objective is conflict, right? So I give you example for conflict. Conflict is mean like I want to buy something very cheap. I buy something very cheap, very nutrition. Sorry. Sorry. Hello. Okay. Sorry. Because I right now is at the hotline for our school in my cell phone, so I must. Okay. Let me go back with this. Right now we consider like the conflicting objective. So what is the conflicting? So how can we know that is a conflicting objective? For example, I want to buy some food. It's very cheap, very a lot of nutrition and delicious. You can see that is the conflict. So in Vietnamese we have ngon bổ rẻ. So can you find something is like this? Of course, no, right? Delicious. Delicious and cheap and a lot of nutrition is maybe is really conflict. That is the typical example I want to show you. So we want to achieve 3 objectives like this, but within this area, for example, the constraint that is I want to find something is like very cheap, but you can limit the number of the money you should pay, like not over $1 or something. So how delicious is you also have the use level, but of course it's hard for you to achieve 3 objectives. But right now, how we can achieve that? So we will teach you in after midterm. After midterm, you will know. So I move to the MADM. MADM that is use selection. Here you see that is selection. Here that is the find out. Different, right? Find out is mean you have the area here, area, and you find which point in here. Satisfy that. And MADM that is the selection of the best solution. For example, you have option. The solution you have like Samsung, you have like iPhone, you have like XTC, like this. So right now we try to find which one is the best one. Best one for you, for decision maker. From a set of alternative. Here that is a set of alternative. You choose which one. And evaluate it again the multiple conflicting criteria. So here that alternative, you have the criteria like color, like appearance, like battery. Battery. Okay, that is. So if I give you like two examples like this, so can you tell me what is the difference between MODM and MADM? Okay, that I check some student. This is make sure you understand what I'm talking. Who? Hello. Who? Who can let me know the difference between MODM and MADM? I already list out. Give you example like this. So what is the difference? Please. One, please.
I think that they have difference in the number of alternatives. So for the MODM, we can see that we can find continuous alternatives or infinite in that feasible regions. However, in the MADM, so we can just find find discrete or limited alternatives.
Okay, this is great. You can see that. Thank you. You can see that here we have the option. The option we select is we already know how many, right? Finite. But here that is the infinite. Infinite because here that is the area. So that is the continuous, that is the discrete alternative. Continuous alternative. Also, we try to find the solution is finite solution. Infinite finite solution. Okay. So another thing you should remember that is for MODM we consider conflicting criteria, but sometimes we have problem in define the conflicting objective. So the student like they have when they do the thesis they have like maximize transportation cost, maximize inventory cost, minimize inventory cost and minimize the transportation cost. That is two objectives, but actually just one that is related with cost. So you can combine them become total cost. So here I highlight it. If not conflict, we can combine them. They can combine. Okay, remember that everyone is very important when you do the thesis. Okay, so that is the difference between MADM and MODM. That is the finite list alternative action. Here that is we have the mathematical programming structure, and we try to find the alternative among the continuous alternative. Here that is the discrete alternative. Okay, any question for me? Yeah, Nguyễn Hoài, Anh Khôi. MADM check only, yep, 3 possible solution checks. Yeah, thank you for your answer. But actually, you remember 3 that is a finite. We can make it general finite and infinite solution. Okay, so we go with some definition of MCDM. Goal, what is the goal? What is the objective? What is criteria, factor, alternative? So the first, you know about the criteria. What is the criteria? And what is the attribute? So let me tell you attribute here. That is attribute. That is criteria. So criteria that is subset of attribute. So what is the attribute? Attribute is mean the nature of the object, the nature of the object. So for example, attribute of the cell phone, that is the battery, the like the color, the shape, the function, that is the attribute. But what are the criteria? The criteria you select from the attribute when you make the decision. For example, cell phone have many attributes like it. But when I buy the cell phone, what attribute I consider to buy the cell phone? That is criteria. For example, I'm just consider battery only. So battery, that is the criteria. Okay. You clear on the attribute and criteria. The criteria you make it the standard you pay on when you make the decision. Okay. In MCDM, so you also have goal. So what is the goal? And you have objective. So what is the different goal and objective? For example, my goals, I set my goals. I will get the GPA is 8. So my objective also I try to maximize GPA. That is goal. Goal is like you set the target value. You expect to achieve that. but the objective is like direction to achieve. Different, right? For example, I have the target goal. My goal is 1,000. The profits we'll get that is $1,000 profits. So objectives that is the maximize profits. You clear on goal and objective? So what is the factor? Factor is like similar with attribute. And alternative. What is the alternative is the option. The option is mean you will select one of option that for finite you have like continuous alternative. No, infinite. If infinite, MODM, you have infinite alternative. But for MADM, you have finite. Okay. So that is example of multiple criteria problem. In determine an elected rule for the power transmission in the city, several criteria should be considered. So it means what they consider here, that is the criteria. But for the attribute, maybe they have more than this. Yes, different. That is different example for the nuclear power plant involved two criteria: safety, health, environment, and cost. So any question for me, everyone? Okay, go back with the previous question. I asked you like the procedure when you make the um, decision. But I believe that it's not all of you like feel comfortable when we make the decision, right? But for me, when I make the decision, also it's hard. It's especially is important. So should I continue work here? I should move to another university, or it's important. That is very very important. So we think a lot, right? And we fail that. We fail with the decision making is everyday daily life. Not only daily life, we also in the science, in engineering, in business is the same. So right now, so how can we make it simple? Make it simple. To make it simple, they propose the procedure for problem solving. So the first, if you want to make a decision, you must to know like the decision context, decision objective, and identify the decision maker. So like what is your problem? You want to make decision on what, and what the objective, and who make the decision. Okay, must the first one. The second one, so you define the alternative. So example, like how many cell phone we under consider when you select one of them. You must select down. For example, you have 4 options. So you click down on 4 options. So define the criteria relevant to decision problem. So define the criteria like what you should pay on, what you consider when you make the decision for buy the cell phone. Okay, and after that, so step 4, after that, we put the alternative and criteria in the matrix, and you give the score. The score give here by expert or by decision maker. If you are the decision maker, you make the decision, so you can give the score. But so in the business, so the problem is large. Maybe you don't have any knowledge about this. You must ask expert to give you like evaluation to put the score in the matrix here. So for example, I give you example like here the Samsung, that is the battery. If you don't have any knowledge about the battery of the Samsung, so you may ask expert. So what about the battery? You ask the expert, right? And they evaluate is 0.1. And maybe the cell phone is better, 0.5, and XTC like this. They give the score here. So the criteria in here, you have like different unit, right? For example, here that is the battery, and you have another criteria like appearance, like the color. So the criteria definitely is different with different units. So how we can combine them together? So I give you example, the kilogram, you cannot plus with meter. You cannot plus with kilometer, right? Different units. We must to transform that in the same units before we combine them. Is this? So in here, the same. With the different units here, of course, we cannot combine. So right now, how we deal with that? We standardize the score. Standardize the score. What is the standardize? Standardize is mean we remove the units of its criteria. Remove that. So I will provide you some techniques for standardize the raw score later. Okay. Remember, that is a very important thing. You must do standardize the raw score before you combine them. Determine the weight for each criteria to flex how important is to the overall decision. So determine the weight for each criteria. For example, like I have battery, the criteria have battery, appearance, and colors, for example. So, but for me, battery is very important. So I give 0.3, 0.5, sorry. For example, I have like battery, I have appearance, and I have appearance, and I have like color. This. But for me, I I give that is the more important when I select. Yes, maybe 0.3 is 0.2. That is determine the weight of each criteria to flex how important to the overall decision. That meaning. So the seventh step is use aggregation function to compute the overall assessment measure for each decision alternative by combine the weight and priority score. So what does it mean? It means that so right now I have like this and I have the option B, option A, B, C, right? Option A, B, C. So right now for example, I have here that is the four criteria. But the question is, so how the battery of 8? I give the evaluation, so like 8 that is better, I give like 0.74, 0.3, 0.3 example like that. I must to pay on this. This is the general, and this is the battery of 8. We evaluation of each one, right? And after that evaluation of, we combine them, become one score. So one score here, maybe A 0.5, no, 0.6 example. B is 0.2, here is 0.2 example. So you should select A. That is A is the best one. That is the step 7 tell you we must to combine all the score. And the step number 8 perform sensitivity analysis to assess the robustness of preferred ranking to change the criteria score and assign weight. So sensitivity analysis here, usually we can change something. So for example, maybe we change the score here. So what will happen in this? Right, when you change the score here, so what happened of this? That is why we need to do a sensitivity analysis, everyone? Because we want to see the whole picture of the problem, right? We can see the different like different weights here will give you what is solution. So you can adjust that and you can receive what you expect to get here. If you just like keep 0.5, so you can see the solution is 0.6 here, right? But if you change here 0.3, 0.4, so what you can see in the result. That is step 8. Okay, so any question for me? Any question? Okay. If you don't have, so let me continue. So right now I moved on the characteristics of criteria. So when you make the decision, of course you must to select the criteria. So all the important criteria must be included. It means that, so for example, when you consider the cell phone, you consider three criteria, you must to include three. If you just include two, so you may lose information. Lot information is mean when you get the result here is not like you expect. It's not correct. That it cannot recommend you what is the suit for you. Okay, so of course redundant characteristics, redundant criteria should be removed, because if you don't consider like price, like example, if you don't consider price, so you shouldn't write here. Of course, each alternative can be adjusted again. Each criteria is mean like alternative A, you must do evaluation with the battery, with the appearance and color. And for B, also you do the same. That is the characteristics of criteria. Okay. I'm talking about the weighting of the criteria. So we have the direct test and indirect. But in here we focus on, in this course, we focus on a direct determination. It means we rating, we ranking, we trade off, we get the ratios. But here, I think it's just ranking. We focus on ranking and ratio. Ranking is mean like you give the order is from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, set ranking. So for the ratio is like priorities, like eigenvector priorities. So here you can find that in the AHB methods. I will tell you in detail this. Here just introduction. Okay, for the weighting the criteria, the ranking methods. So for a ranking methods, you rank is mean you give the solution like C1 greater than C2 greater than C3, that is you rank. Of course, you rank that you based on the weight of the C1. So the C1 here 0.3, C2 0.2, of course C1 greater than C2. But make sure that summation of all the criteria here should be equal 1. The weightage should be equal 1. So of course is the minimum of the weight is 0, right? 0 to maximum 31. But here is not important. The important you should pay attention, that is the pairwise comparison. So what is the pairwise comparison? Pairwise comparison is when you have like like this. Battery and appearance, you compare together, and appearance and color, you make the pairwise comparison, and you make battery and color, and yes, that is the pairwise comparison. You make pair. So for making the decision, you use like several methods I'm already listed out in the previous. So we should give the weight. So for example, battery is like important, equally important with the color. So the scale you give should be what? Right here, that is the Professor Satis. He proposed the scale of the pairwise comparison in 9 levels. The first study, the equal important, equal to moderate important. So if you think battery, so like this. I will like this, right? So B is battery, A that is the apple, C that is the color. Okay. So battery compared with battery, that is the equally important. So we get 1. Appearance and appearance equal 1. Color and color is equal 1. So for example, battery with appearance, that is the equal to moderately important. So you can give number 2. Or you think that the battery is strong importance. So with the colors, you can give 5. Everyone, so if battery compare with appearance is 2. So appearance compared with battery should be equal. Should be 1 equal to 1 over 2. Because 2 is B is like twice important than appearance. So appearance is less important than B, so 1 over 2, right? Yes. So here is 5, right? So you invert that is 1 over 5. So appearance, color, for example, that is a very strong important, you give it 7. So if you invert that, it should be 1 over 7. Okay, remember that invert. So any question for me? If no question, so I move on to the standardizing raw score. You remember that I'm just tell you that if we have like different units of the criteria here, so we should standardize them. But how can we standardize? So I'm provide you 4 techniques. 1, 2, 3, 4 techniques here. You can eliminate the units. So we can use the standardized or we can use the normalized. It's the same meaning, everyone. When you read the book or the journal, so they use that is standardized or normalized. It's the same meaning. So let me go with the first technique. So the first technique. The first technique here. You can see that if we want to normalize this, so we can, that is the raw score. That is given from the expert, the raw score. We must do standardize them. So the first technique we can use, that is the you text each, we divide for sum. So sum is mean you sum here. Sum, you get sum. You get sum here. So each of the column you get sum. So you have sum SI. You can write SI or SIJ is depend. SIJ is just general. If you have the alternatives, you can change. But here you can SI. Some SI, right? That is S1, S2, S3. Score 1, score 2, score 3, and sum of the score. And you can take that is SI divide 4. It means will be equal like 1 here. Sum of that is sum will be equal what, everyone? Sum here 1 plus with 1 over 2 plus with 1 over 5, right? I call that is x equal x. So here you need to make other table matrix. So you divide for x, you divide for x, you divide for x, and you do the same. So you will have the new matrix. So that matrix is already normalized. So you can combine them together. Okay. You can use the first technique. And the second technique, we don't use sum, we use max. So we define in each column here, which one is the maximum. So if we consider battery, the max is 1, right? Max equal 1. So you take each of them, divide for max. So you divide for 1, you divide for 1, divide for 1. And the same here. Here max is 2, you divide for 2, divide for 2, divide for 2. Here's 7. So 5 divide 7, 7 divide 7, and 1 divide 7. That is the second one. And the third one. The third one, you can define max and mean. You can define max and mean. So for example, here max is number 1, mean is 1 over 5. So after you standardize, you have what? You take here, you take is minus mean, minus 1 over 5, right? So you divide for max minus mean. Max minus mean also 1 minus over 5. And here you have like what? 1 over 2, you minus mean, and you divide 1 over 5. So the same. You will have the new matrix already normalized. And the fourth technique, you can take sum here, sum is like 1 plus what 1/2, 1/5 is square. And after that, you take the square root and you take each of them, divide for this. This one divide for this. This one divide for this. And the same for this. Okay, that is the 4 techniques. So any question for me? You should have a question in this slide. Hello.
Hello, Miss. I'm Khánh Linh. I have a question. How can we know when we will use which method?
Yes, I expect you will ask me that question. So, in here, I can tell you that for the first one, if you can calculate sum, right? You can apply the first one. So in case your data have the maximize, you can apply the maximize. Another case, if your data have minimize and maximize, so you can use that. And in your data have like the negative and positive, like negative point and positive point. For example, of course, if like this, you don't need to use negative. But in case if you have negative, so for example, negative here, you should use the first one. Okay, so you eliminate the positive or negative sides. Yeah, so that is simple like this. So for example, if you have the positive side and negative side, you may ask me, can I use like the maximize here or not? Maybe it's not, because when you make it is also it depends on your problem. If your problem allow the negative but actually in here we consider the distance. We try to find distance. You can see that when you take like S, you divide for sum, it means like you have like S1, you have S2, you have like S1, S2, S3, right? Right now we look at the first one. You take this one, you divide for this. That is the ratio, right? The ratio. You take this distance, you divide. And also here, the second one, you have S1, S2, you take S1. Maybe here, if S2 is maximized, so you divide S3. Right? In this is we normalize, it means we try to see this still remain the score here. For example, if you give the score here is 1, if you give the score 1. So when you transform, when you use the standardize here to transform them, but make sure that is number 1 still is later than number 2 here, right? So if the negative you don't use that, so maybe the result will be different. Cannot like remain the result 1 here is greater than 2. You transform, but make sure that you can still keep that. Okay. That is my answer. Do you have any other question? If you have, just leave me the message. No, everyone? So here I repair. Oh yes, maybe someone must be. Okay, here I'm prepare some slide to tell you about the inside of normalization methods. So they have two kind of. The first that is the distant pay. The second that is the propulsion pay. The propulsion pay when they propose the normalized methods, they pay on the propulsion or they pay on the distance. Okay. Okay, you see here that is the distance by normalization here. See the formula. So let me explain that for you.
Teacher, can I ask you something?
Yeah.
On the board in the red marker, can you see on your board, your whiteboard? Yeah. I didn't get to hear this part very clearly, so I don't know why it is -1 square and not 1.
No, I assume that.
Okay.
I assume that if here is -1, so it should be eliminate the size if we make a square.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't hear that part very clearly. Thank you.
Okay. Welcome. So for the distant bay, so you see here, okay. A little bit mathematical. Rij is that is xij minus 0 divide sum a k equal 1 is xij minus 0 p and 1 over p. The first of all, if you want to understand this, so you must to know like the Manhattan distance and Euclidean distance. You remember Manhattan distance? This is Manhattan distance. So P here represent for the way you calculate distance. That is the dimension. If the dimension equal 1, so that is the Manhattan distance. Manhattan distance. Okay, if P equal 2, that is the Euclidean. Euclidean. That is the Euclidean distance. And P equal infinity. That is the Trebushev distance here. Trebushev distance. So In engineering, we consider first dimension, second dimension is two dimension, and infinities. But in the business, they may have like b equal 3, equal 4, different dimension. But I'm like not familiar with that. So for engineering, we consider with 1, 2, and infinity. So let review what is the Manhattan, right? You have 1 point A and B. If you want to calculate distance, so here XA, YA, right? XB, YB. So the distance AB will be equal with XA minus XB plus with YA minus YB, right? So if you look at this, so it's similar with this. Because it here they consider X, so they don't consider Y, right? X is like this. For example, if we assume that is A that is 0, we can move that XA to the zero coordinate. So we have like distance, right? Actually here XB minus XA, right? You can see we have, but in here you can see that is sum, so we have this one plus with. Okay, B equal 1, P equal 1. And you have sum here, you have 1 over 1. That is 1. Is 1. That is the distance. So they normalize, they take each of them, each one, they divide for distance. So that is for B equal 1, right? If B equal 2, P equal 2 is Euclidean. Euclidean, you remember that Euclidean is like this. Euclidean, the distance, like you take XA minus XB square, YA minus YB square, and you take the square root. Remember? The square root here, I can rewrite that by 1 over 2. You can see here that is 2, 2, and 1 over 2. When P equal to 2. And so what about P equal to infinity? So here you can see that is equal to, right? Equal infinities will be x divided by max. So why is max is not sum, everyone? So who can explain for me why we take max here? So here you see that is a sum, right? Sum, but infinity, that is max. I give you 2 minutes to think about it. Okay, I think we, during you think about it, I take the break. So take a break and go back. We will answer this question. We will discuss this question. So, but another thing I want you to consider that is, I leave the game bin here. So I hope you can sign in first and reset time. Let me share the link. So I leave the game bin here. Okay, can you see it?
Cannot see the game pin, teacher.
Okay, I will copy this. Okay, after 15-minute break, and I will back. We will play game, and I give you the solution of with p equal to infinity during the break time. If you're interested, so you can think about that, and we discuss later. Okay, see you after next break. Hello, everyone. Are you ready? One student answer the correct, give the correct answer. So, definition of the problem, that is the first step of the decision making. So, when
Teacher, I cannot see the question.
Really?
Yes.
But so why all of the students give the answer?
Lỗi.
So everyone, can you see the question? Oh, I know. Sorry. Let me see. So why you don't tell me? No. No. Okay, wait a minute. So right now you can see the question one here. Hello, everyone. Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay. So you randomly to select the answer, right? So actually, this is definition of the problem is the first step of the first step of decision making. Okay, so never mind. So we continue with the second one. Okay, for second. Yeah, most students get this number one. That is the decision alternative. As I mentioned earlier, decision alternative is should be like defined before the criteria established. It means how many options you have when you buy the cell phone. So you must to like list down what kind of cell phone you consider to select it first, and after that you before the decision criteria established. Okay, that is the first. Second one. So let's see who. You 190. So the winner in the second question. So for the third question, this is yes. So decision criteria are the way to evaluate the choice made by decision maker. Right? You must to pay on that when you evaluate the alternative. This correct answer is number C. So let's see who is the winner in the third question. 179. Okay. So the final question, everyone. So a multi-criteria decision problem that is the decision maker must evaluate each alternative with respect to each criteria. That is correct. So all of you select B, right? So cannot is D because multi-criteria decision making when the decision that is you have to evaluate alternative based on decision based on the criteria, right? So I have problem with connection. So let's see who is the winner. Yeah, congratulations. So I don't know your name. 163, 10, and 180. Okay, it's just for fun and also make you relax. But I want to see that is for number one. For question number one is we don't count, but for question number 4, just 30%, 31% correct. Number 3 is 34. It's low. It's the low percent. You should pay attention when I give the lesson. Okay, just keep you relaxed. Right now, move on to the lesson. Here, let me share the slide. So we are stopped at this slide, right? And hello, everyone. So can you, who can explain that why I choose max here? Do you have an idea? Do you have any idea, everyone? No? Yeah, my question is, you can see in my slide. So, and also on the board. Here that is the sum. B equal 1, B equal 2. We on UU that is sum, right? But if you look at the slide, so when P equal to infinity, why didn't you sum but you max? But I mean, because it's benefits you should make selection. I think it's related with mathematics. Okay, so let me write down. So here, right? So I can rewrite that like the distance AB will be equal what, like XB minus infinities. So for example, A to B, infinities. Right. So here is the infinities. So this one is infinity, right? Because it's exposed infinity. So if you plus it together, so it will be infinities like this. right? No, it's like it. So this is infinity, this is infinity. U plus is infinity, and finally infinity. So this one will be equal with, I compare this one, which one is the maximize? So I select maximize. Because I try to choose different, the largest one, and I give the infinities. So that is infinities. The meaning like this. Choose the maximize. So that's why we will equal what, like here we select the maximize of this. So one of the maximize. So we have infinity, and here we have 1 over infinity. So this is will be equal 1, right? We check the largest one. This infinity, infinity. So total infinity, sum infinity. So, but here we didn't choose sum because we should choose max. We should compare. Okay, here infinity, infinity. So to represent that, we select the max and the power infinities. Okay, that is for the benefits attribute. When we use, why we need to separate benefits and cost? Just related the ratio. It's not related like max or sum. Here, max or sum. I explain like this. For the benefits, what is the benefits attribute? Benefits is mean higher is better. Like the profits, higher is better. The qualities, higher better. But the cost attribute, like smaller is better. Like cost, smaller the better, right? Price is smaller is better. So if why we need to separate like this? Because when we have the criteria related with the benefits and criteria related with cost, so how we can give the normalized? So we give the score normalized. If the benefits, so you normalize, you divide for max, but for cost attribute, you should take mean because minimal cost is the best one, right? The best. So you divide for the cost of each the attribute. So any question for me in this slide? Any question, everyone? If no questions, so I move on to the propulsion pay normalization methods. So that is that they pay on distance. Here they pay under propulsion. The propulsion is mean propulsion is the ratio. So like you divide is max, maximize and minimize. Here that is the between. Xi is between maximize and minimize, right? So you normalize by you take curious. You take the distance, you divide for this, so you have the ratio. That is the for benefits attribute. And if cost attribute, that is the benefit attribute. If cost attribute, it means the lower is the better, right? So should be like this. So if you want to steal that as I, so x minus here will be become the maximize. So change. So you can see take this divide for this. That is the cost attribute. So if you look at this, so that is they pay on the distance, right? Here they pay on the ratio. And the ratio proportion distance is the distance. Okay, that I just want to give you like insight the how they can propose the normalization methods. Okay. So some problem techniques I already explained. I already mentioned earlier. We have like short top 6 Electra, AHB, and like smart A and B, but we didn't consider in our cost. But I may ask you to read that and propose this and present that in your projects. Okay. Actually, for a MADA, we have a lot of techniques. Right now, we have a lot of techniques. We have the technique related with the creep number, also fuzzy number. So we have, I don't know, right now I don't know how many MADM techniques because you know that the methods for MADM, they propose a lot and like, but what I'm sharing with you here, that is the basic MADM techniques. So right now, they propose other, but they pay on this. More of the new one they propose. So everyone, what I'm teaching you here, maybe is wrong, will be wrong in next 5 years because like each day we have like a new innovation, we have like the new methods they propose. So maybe this one is not correct in 5 years, in next 5 years. So I give you example why I say like that. So for example, if we just consider like with the creep number, they use like the creep number to represent for the linguistic variable. So for example, when I say it's hot, the human, they don't want to describe something with the number. So when I ask you, like, she beautiful? So you say, yes, she beautiful. So we don't use like the number. We use the word, the linguistic variable. we don't use the numeric variable. So I say it's hot today, right? So usually we don't talk about like how many degrees. We just hot, warm, cold, something. So, but how can we represent for that? If we just use a number like hot, you represent for hot is like 35 degrees. It's not correct. Like for me, it's hot is from like 30 to 40s. I feel it's hot, but for you it's different. So different people, they will give different opinion, different idea. So if we just use the crib number, that is the limit is cannot represent for opinion or the idea. So they use the fuzzy. So when we heard about fuzzy, maybe you think that is like something is incorrect, but actually it's more accurate than if you use the crib number. So that's why I say that maybe what we study here will be wrong in the future. So when they propose the fuzzy, is like represent for the subjective idea, something uncertain, but it's not enough. Not enough. Right now they have many different various types. Yeah, so I will share with you this later if you're interested in that. You know that is the human make decision. Human make the decision, but the human is like they are very complicated, very complicated. So right now we study what the complicate we create, right? So I want this, I want that, I expect like this is what many goal, many objective. So very complicated. And like I feel hot, but how hot, how warm is that how we can deal with that? We will study in next class. So when we study with fuzzy ASP, so I will tell you clearly about that. Okay. So that's all for the lesson today. You have any question for me? Can you explain again when you the first techniques instead of okay? You mean that's one minus mean, max minus mean, right? Okay. So look at this. So actually, that is maximize, minimize. So actually here we just pay on the proportional. We take the distance from here. You divide for this. So for example, here you have x1, right? Here that is minimize. X minimize, here is maximize. So here you have x2, standardize. X2, so x2, the ratio you divide for this. So for example, x1, original we have, the score is 1. Here the score is 2. So when we standardize them, make sure that 1 here also smaller than 2 because you divide for the same x max minus x min, right? 1. So should be later than like x max minus x min. 2 is x max minus x min. When we use that when your data have the maxima and minimize. We can check the ratio like this. Kiều Trinh, hello Kiều Trinh. Any question? Further question? Okay. Everyone, if you have any question, just leave me the message. I will ask TA have like the room. I remember in MS Team you have like the chat box. You can leave the message in here. I can see that and answer your question during you review the lesson or any question related with my lesson, so we can discuss and answer your question. Project nhóm các bạn ở lớp thứ 6 có thể. Cô trả lời các bạn nha. Các bạn ở nhóm lớp thứ 6 thì không thể làm nhóm với lớp thứ 4. Trong cái trường hợp là như vậy các bạn. Tại vì có một số bạn á là bạn bị kẹt giờ. Có nghĩa là bạn đăng ký lớp này nhưng mà bạn không có, hình như là hết slot, bạn phải học cái lớp khác thì bạn email cho cô thì cô approve thì bạn mới được học, bạn mới được giống như là sinh hoạt bên cái lớp thứ 4. Chứ còn ví dụ như nếu mà em lớp thứ 6 thì em vẫn phải làm bên lớp thứ 6. Còn bạn nào đã xin cô tại vì bạn ấy bị kẹt lớp, kẹt giờ hoặc là có cái gì đó thì ngay đầu năm học lúc trước thì cô đã approve thì các bạn đi mới làm. Còn không á thì không được. Và nếu mà các bạn mà có muốn thay đổi gì đó thì các bạn phải email cho cô và các bạn phải CC cho bạn TA của lớp mình. Cô nhắn cái email của TA lên đây nha các bạn. Cái gì các bạn cần. Và cô cũng sẽ nói bạn TA này lập ra một cái group để các bạn có thể đặt câu hỏi hoặc là cái gì liên quan đến cái bài học hoặc là lớp học của mình ha. So do you have any question? If you don't have, so we end the class today. Would you mind to explain again the relationship between attribute and criteria and score? Nhóm 6 người thôi em ơi. Okay. Alternative. So for attribute, it means something belongs to the objects. So for example, cell phone. So the nature of the cell phone, the attribute of cell phone, that is the nature of cell phone, like the color, like the batteries, like appearance, like the cameras, right? That is the attribute. Attribute is mean everything belongs to the cell phone, the attribute. And criteria is mean that you select from the list of attributes. So when I buy the cell phone, I just consider the price of cell phone or the quality of the battery. So I just select 2 because when I buy the cell phone, I just consider 2. So that it become criteria. The score or alternative. Alternative is mean when I'm by the cell phone, right? I have several options. I will choose one of them. So that is alternative. Several options like I consider Samsung, I consider iPhone, I consider Huawei. That is the option. Alternative, that is option you select. Or you can think that is the solution you select. Which one you select that? Okay, and score. Score is mean when you give. So when you evaluate that, so you give the score. So for example, you evaluate the battery of this iPhone is like 7. So you give score 7. Right? And the scale is different. Scale is mean when you make pairwise comparison. For example, you make comparison between the iPhone with Samsung. So you think that the battery of iPhone is better than price of the Samsung. So you give the scores number 2. So any other question? Phạm Quang Huy, I already answered your question. Okay. If you don't have any questions, so we end the class now. See you next class. Bye-bye. So be safe.